the work choice is light, but he will take that light even away and make sure that, you know, he will take away penalty rates and all sorts of things. So it's going to be in workers' rights, and we're going to have a big fight on our hands on that one.
Yes, there is a long list that we could talk about here, but some of the things we've talked about tonight with the carbon price and the renewable energy target and the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, if we're serious about tackling climate change, these things are very important, and yet if there is a change of government, they are at risk. I also think some of the nation-building things like the national broadband network, you'll get the second-rate national broadband network that doesn't go to people's homes, that goes out the door. The superannuation increases get put on hold, so I think those nation-building things suffer. The paid parental leave scheme, I know this might sound benign, and some of our number here like company tax being higher, but the idea of having a higher company tax rate, and the franking credits not being passed through to shareholders, means that self-funded retirees are going to contribute a cool $1.5 billion towards making that scheme happen. So there are a series of things which I think will do really serious damage to this country.
It's a great question. I'll just pick one policy. By the way, actually, I've got a Green Party membership form in my back pocket for Kelvin to fill out. But you saw when the Liberals won in Queensland, the massive layoffs of public servants, just incredible. They've just closed the sexual health clinic up there in Brisbane, and so we're going to get a lot of refugees from Canberra and treat them nice. And but there's a lot of people in Wills who work for the government. There is going to be unemployment as a direct result of cuts to government departments across the board on hiring.
I try not to think about Tony Abbott if I can help it. Okay, the first great debate that we had, at least we had Kevin Rudd coming out and, you know, talking a little bit about marriage equality and saying that there's going to be some kind of movement with 100 days if he gets in. We wouldn't get even that under Abbott. It's something that's so easy to fix, so ridiculously easy to fix. I'd just like to say that New Zealand has legalised marriage equality, Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, South Africa, Sweden, Uruguay, parts of Mexico and the USA. Anything but Tony Abbott, please.
I don't want to add to the list because it's just depressing. But what I do want to do is to throw a question back to the audience. I think that what's happened is that we've allowed the Abbott-type Tea Party forces and the Murdoch press to get complete control over not just the country, but the right wing. Now, most of us people here, if you wanted to check our particular personal credentials, and perhaps most of the audience, are left wing. I don't know whether that's right or not. But I think that there's something seriously wrong with our society when once upon a time there used to be things called small L liberals who are actually usually quite compassionate. You know, remember this radical called Malcolm Fraser? Okay, he hasn't really changed much since 1975 when we all hated him. So what I'm saying is that there used to be people around who were on the right who were small L liberals. Petro Georgiou is a more recent version. Ian McPhee, you know, remember, Dick Hamer as the Premier of Victoria. If you're sufficiently old in the tooth, a few people remember this. I think what's happened is we have allowed our society to have the nice right-wingers not represented by anybody, and it's the Tea Party type extremists who have captured these people and are using and wielding their vote. And that means we constantly are on this sort of, like a 50% margin where we can't get anything decent through. If the small L liberals were mobilised, you'd probably have a 75% majority for most of the decent things you want in the country. And I think it's our fault, not that we're right-wingers. But what I'm saying is that we're going to have to get out there in the community. We're going to have to connect up with all the small L liberals that are still alive, and we can exhume a few that are dead. we've got to rebuild that potential for society to be able to work on compassionate issues across the political divide. And I think that this is a really major issue. I think that possibly, just in terms of how this came to be, I don't know whether this is right. Once upon a time, all the small groups used to be inside the big parties, so that, you know, more or less. So then the Democrats pulled out the small L Liberals out of the Liberals, so it made it easier for the really hard right to take over the Liberal Party. Then the Greens, and I was part of this move, pulled out of the Labor Party, and that made it easier for the right to get hold of the Labor Party. And until the compassionate forces are actually able to build up their numbers, we've got this really bizarre position where the actual position of Australians is not represented by a lot of the people in Parliament. Now, whatever way we do it, history is history. We can't unscramble that egg. But what we have to do is work out how people of compassion and care, whether they're right-wing or left-wing, can start working together across political divides, and we can recapture this country for people who are actually basically decent.
So much. Sorry if you